Well, you think the death of Robin Williams was shocking? I do. I got the news Monday. A girlfriend texted me from New York. I was driving, and my kid was reading the text, and I was like, no way. No way. Tuesday morning, I sat at my computer after looking at his stars, and I think I bawled my eyes out for about an hour and a half. I feel really bad. I love this man. He made me laugh. He made me cry. He was one of the best actors. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about his stars for a minute, because depression is very real. It's serious. Depression comes on for a lot of factors. People who are being bullied, depression sets in. It's a serious thing. My guests tonight are going to talk about all of these things. And we are going to throw in a few paranormal investigations as well. We'll start with the bad and end with the good like last week. But Robin Williams' date of birth was July 21st, 1951. This made Robin a Cancer, a very intuitive and sensitive Cancer. He had a moon in Pisces. And I've always said anybody with a moon in Pisces, this is probably the worst placement in the zodiac for a moon, because not only do they have the strong intuitive and psychic qualities, but with Robin Williams, he had unfavorable aspects to his moon and his dragon head and tail. Now, Robin Williams was an extremely sensitive human being. He cared on a very deep level for people. That may be a side that a lot of people didn't see in him. And then again, a lot of people did see that. He did several comic reliefs with Whoopi Goldberg and Billy Crystal. But I want to explain something to everyone real quick, and then I'm going to get my girl on. He was extremely sensitive with his natal dragon placed right in Pisces. So I have this dragon placement, and this does bring psychic abilities, but if it's placed in a position with a moon or even a Saturn, it can create major depression. And he shared a dragon's head in Pisces, and this makes him very prone to depression. His tail was in Virgo, right on his third house. And for those of you who know the housing system, what this meant was that third house is your mental process and communication. So he was hurting on the inside, but didn't show it on the outside. Anytime you have the planet Saturn positioned somewhere, it can create problems with this, because to make matters even worse, this is why I was crying so much. To make matters even worse, his hidden dragon was in Sagittarius, his sixth house, just like mine. His health and service to the world was in Gemini, 12th house, and this placement is the subconscious. This placement is psychological health. If you don't have a healthy subconscious, you're going to have mental health. The universal dragon, on top of that, was right on his 10th house of career. All these factors coming in. And to top it off, Saturn was in Virgo right on his third house. And you're prone to mood swings and depression with this placement. Saturn is the gloomy planet that can either structure or rebuild in the positive. But in the negative, it produces the fear principle. It produces depression. Wherever Saturn resides in one's chart will always tell me where sickness, death, and disease will come from sometime in a person's lifetime. Yes, I can tell you what you're going to probably die from, as morbid as that sounds. This is what I've learned is a blessing and a curse, all mixed up into one. Anyway, that's just a little perspective into the mind of Robin Williams. I wrote all this down, and his chart is on my Alpha Star Facebook page. Please go to my site there on Facebook and like my show, and every week you get updates on things. I post interesting stuff within the paranormal and earth changes. But tonight, folks, I have a really good friend of mine on, and she is no stranger to DTM. I am joined by my dear friend Christina George. She hosts the radio show here on DTM called Paranormal Connections, which you can hear every Monday at 9. I'm not done. She has 2 more, folks. Aliens and UFOs and Beyond on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And every other Sunday, you can check her out with Sean Austin for The Darker Side of the Paranormal at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She's also the founder of Psychic Paranormal Research Society, which I'm a Bear with me, everybody.
You're all good. You're back. You're Skype issue.
issues. Christina, are you with me, girl?
I am.
All right. Wonderful.
Thank you
Good.
for me.
Oh, thanks for joining me tonight. How have you been?
Well, I'm hanging in there. You know, it's the same stuff, just a new day.
I know. Well, you know, I wanted to have you on my show, and I kind of put it off in lieu of what all was going down. But I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to have you on because not only are you a psychic and a paranormal investigator and a sensitive, but you, Christina, you deal with people with depression. I deal with it as a light worker, and when I do doing readings, I can see it, but it kind of it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? The bullying, the depression, it creates this negative energy for people.
It really does, and especially being an empath. I mean, a lot of people have psychic abilities, but they're not empathic.
Exactly.
And the problem with being empathic is that anything that I read, anything that is told to me, people talk to me, I pick up all the energy that is, connected with that. So whether I'm close to somebody and, I avoid malls and large, groups of people like the plague because it is just so draining. I feel like, people's anger, their sadness, just about anything that you could possibly think of. And so there are a lot of negative things being said and put out on the internet. It's one of the reasons I stopped watching the news and a lot of television was that there was so much negativity that was involved with it that it was just way too draining for me. And it's the same way with, negative things being posted. I mean, you can actually, what's so sad is I can feel the hatred and the anger of the people who are involved. And, it does create a lot of, depression. I'm actually a suicide, survivor. I have struggled with depression, throughout my whole life, understandably so, because, I grew up not really understanding my abilities until later on in life. So I dealt with a lot of depression. So I definitely get it, which is why I created, the new group, Worldwide Friends Against Bullying, because I think it's such an important topic.
It very much is, and just like Robin Williams, looking at his stars, he was an empath too. He had, I think, what was, because he's of Jewish descent, and I think what was happening in the world kind of took a toll on him. I know through the last few days we've found out more. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and that's very traumatic as well. And there are other things, and this kind of sounds arrogant of me to say, but I'm going to say it. I wish Robin Williams would have known someone like you, Christina, or someone like myself, or someone in the metaphysical world that he could have talked to, because sometimes going to a doctor doesn't help much. All they do is give you a bunch of meds, and sometimes it's the meds that make you take your own life. Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely, because a lot of the medications that they have out there for depression and things like that people will see that the small print states right there that, if you start having feelings of, suicidal tendencies or things like that, call your doctor. Okay, well, I mean, really, how many people, once they get to that point, the thing is with suicide and depression is that the depression comes on first. And then, people can usually take quite a bit, before they really kind of just break down. And it really doesn't matter, what it is that's being said or done. It can be something so small. You're talking about Robin Williams, and of course, this is kind of what got you and I on this topic. And I started seeing probably over like the last 6 months, I've seen a definite change in him. I love him to death, but I was seeing such sadness, confusion. We didn't know that he was diagnosed, but again, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that are diagnosed with very serious illnesses and medical issues. And there are plenty of people that don't commit suicide because they dealt with it.
Like
they've been
Jay
diagnosed.
Fox, he became an advocate for it.
Yes.
So he turned it around. I think there were other factors going on, and of course, he was in rehab less than a month ago.
Right.
And that might have something, but it really, even after what you're going through and what you've been going through, and some of your other, some of the other friends that we know in this circle that are going through this bullying. I have a child who was bullied in school, and first grade was hell on earth for me and for her because she was being bullied. It's a very serious thing that more administrators, more teachers, more police need to address.
Right. Well, and the thing is that, dealing with the bullying on my own, I mean, I've been dealing with it now, like, for my sister for 8 years, and from this other person, the last couple. And, it's one thing dealing with one person. But, just imagine if, say, tomorrow, for anybody out there listening, say tomorrow one of your friends decides that you've been friends for a long time, or even a family member, gets mad at you, and is just so vindictive that they just decide to start making things up. And since they know you and they know people you've had issues with in the past, they started bringing all those people into their circle. So you're not just dealing with one person now. You're dealing with multiple people who are, in my case, and the people I'm dealing with, that are constantly, twisting facts, stating, outright lies, making stuff up. I mean, it's ridiculous. I went from, everything of being, a murderer of two people. One, they're saying is my grandmother, and another one was a young girl that was tragically murdered, and I helped with the case. And even though this child's murderer was found, went through trial, and was convicted through DNA, there's still these, false rumors out there saying that, I'm a person of interest in all of this. So, being hit so often, every day, all day long, I block everybody. And again, I want to make this very clear because a lot of people I see when we're talking about bullying, and in my group we've been doing it a lot. And the first advice everybody wants to give is block the person. But I've done that. I've blocked multiple people.
I have too.
Spreading this crap, okay? I block. But they contact me through my email. They contact me through my friends. They contact me through my guests. I mean, they contact anybody and everybody they possibly can, and there's multiple people. They spend all day long trolling the internet for, stuff on us that we've done in the past interviews just so that they can go and, post negative stuff. And the problem is that, number one, Facebook has become such a big part of people's lives.
Yes.
And it always amazes me that, you can get stuff that I see that is taken off and deleted all the time. Instantly. Like, I can get a message, from somebody saying, hey, I think your profile looks great. Contact me at so-and-so at, MSN.com, right? Those things will be deleted before I even get a chance to report them as abusive, and they're removed. But stuff like this, the bullying that we've been going through, is not being addressed. Facebook is an automated system, and they don't remove too much. We have probably went and reported, so many sites. I mean, we have had some big triumphs. I mean, we were able to get 4 years of radio shows and, other people being trashed on the internet removed and taken down. We've been able to close some accounts, different things. But, really a lot of people don't really understand how extreme this can become. And it is, when they say cyber stalkers, that is exactly what this is. Cyber bullies turn into cyber stalkers because they're so obsessed with you, they cannot stop. And it's to a point where I've had to get law enforcement involved and attorneys because that's really the only way we're going to be able to put a stop to all of it is to have some arrests made. And, hopefully that's what's gonna happen here, soon. I just want people to kind of sit and wait and see what goes on. But, it's ridiculous that people think that, we have all these cyber, laws, cyber bully laws, but they only address children. So if you're not a child, those don't follow you.
Well, I've had my fair share of issues with Facebook myself.
Yes.
I've seen some of the most hateful things posted about people, about someone's drama, and people are just so mean and vindictive, and it really makes me realize that mankind really has not much hope if there's people like this running around. with this thought process. It's very depressing. It's very sad. And I'm very angry with Facebook because there's things that they don't take down, but yet there's things that they won't let you post that are not pornographic. There's nothing sexually insinuating about them. It's reality. It's, you know, you're posting something about the war. You're posting something about a politician or some atrocity that's happening in the world, and you don't. I've had many times where I've been told I don't have the authority to post that. And what the heck is that? That's the Illuminati at hand watching us.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is people, I watch my timeline, and, you know, it's not just on me. So, you know, it's like I don't want this to focus on me. I mean, yes, I am experiencing it, you know, very publicly right now. But, you know, this is happening to so many people. Like, I log on to Facebook, and, you know, I'll be off a couple hours, and I'll have, you know, a couple hundred notifications. And as I scroll through them, it disgusts me. I mean, you see people who've been friends for years on Facebook, and then now they're trashing each other. I mean, any time that somebody's mad, it's like an all-out assault on them. And, you know, it's like, it really makes you wonder, like, you know, who to trust. Are friendships real? You know, virtual friendships have become very big. It's the new wave of the century. You know, people who are very isolated, alone, have no personal, social life. They can go on Facebook and they can make thousands of friends and keep in touch with them on a daily basis. And, you know, when I see that, you know, such a positive thing is being turned so negative, I mean, not only am I seeing people tear each other apart and, you know, question friendships, loyalty, things like that, we have to remember that a lot of the friendships that we make online are just that. They're just, you know, somebody adds us and we consider them our quote-unquote friend. To me, a friend means so much more. And a true friend for me, is very, very hard to find. I have an amazing following, amazing, you know, friends, but I don't know all of them personally. And I started to know that, you know, it's like if you don't kiss everybody's ass, then, you know, it's like you can be the next person who's going to be the target. And I point this out to a lot of people because, you know, people say, oh, you know, all you have to do is ignore it and things like that. Well, sometimes you can't ignore it. If I think I've done a pretty darn good job over the last 8 years of trying to ignore all this crap. You know, because every few years it comes back and is like reinvented and it's something new. The story changes. And, you know, you have to be careful of information and, you know, and personal feelings that you are divulging to people. Because a lot of times those are the same people that are going to then turn around and twist it or do something to hurt you with that same information. So, yeah, it's becoming a really big problem, but I will tell you that, and you know me, Linda, everything that I do, everything that has ever happened to me in my life has a reason. That I know. Right. I may not always understand it right away when I'm in the midst of it, but I definitely knew. And when all of this became such an attack on me, and then they started attacking other people, I was seeing it was like spreading like a virus, worse than Ebola. I mean, it was just like seeing it everywhere with everybody. I mean, it was horrible. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
I've never blocked more people in my life. My block list went from maybe 4 or 5. I got like 20 people on it now. I mean, I've never had that many blocks. It's like, oh, jeez.
I have over 200, and you know, most of them have been blocked. Probably at least 150 of them have been over the last, say, 4 or 5 months of these people who are doing this, creating fake accounts to try to get back onto my page. And I mean, literally, like, there we will get anywhere from 10 to 40 fake profiles a day.
Oh my God.
Before I would just not accept them, but then I started realizing who these people were, and so then I started blocking them as well. So, you know, it's like a freaking block fest, and, you know, unfortunately I don't care about how many people are on my page. It means nothing to me. They're just numbers. But one of the really saddening things I see is that on a lot of these people, these fake accounts are getting all 3 people's private profiles, because what's happening is people so much are focused on the numbers that if somebody adds them, they add them right away. You know,
Right.
because somebody wants to be my friend, I should add him. They don't go and check their page. They don't check and see, do you have anything in common? Like, do we have friends in common? And you can't even always trust that, because in my case, my stalkers, they've been doing this for multiple years, so they have multiple accounts, and some of these accounts have over 1,000 people in common with me. So there's really like just no way to know. So I just don't accept any more friend requests unless I know them personally. But yeah, it's sickening the way it is. But like I said, I have seen that everything that happens for a reason. And when at the very middle of this, recently I stayed silent on this all these years. I went and I posted, just evidence on the sites that were out there that they were posting on. I never, engaged. But it got to a point where they were pulling anybody and everybody left and right. I mean, these people were making fun of people who had been raped. They were making fun and telling people who are ill with leukemia and dying that they're not even really sick. Putting fake stuff out. I mean, again, if people had any idea of the craziness that goes on in these kind of scenarios, it blows your mind. Figured, okay, you know what? I went out and I said my piece, and then all of a sudden it was like wildfire. Everybody wanted me on their show to talk about this, and every time I went on, I was encountered with these same people that are cyberbullying, stalking in the chat rooms and doing it there. And then they run back to their pages and say, we were attacked or we were threatened, and it's like, really, like, nobody says anything about you on their pages. I mean, I don't get it. So I just said, you know what? The thing is on their own, they weren't getting any attention. They didn't get attention until we started talking about it. Then everybody wanted to know what was going on. So it's kind of like a catch-22. So I said, well, you know what? I really don't care. I'm not doing this for people's opinions and what they think of me or what they care, because I don't care. I mean, if people want to like me and get to know me and love me, that is amazing, because I will, I will do anything for anybody that I can. But, if you don't like me, that's okay too. It's completely okay. But you don't have to go out and trash people. If you don't like them, block them. You don't look at them, but you don't go to their page. Just move on.
That's
and
it.
so I decided, you would think. But again, this is where we get the cyber stalkers and the cyber stalking name from, is because these people are obsessed. I mean, anybody that can talk about me, one of them for 8 years, and the other one for the last 2 years, are obsessed. I hate to say it, but I mean, if you go to these people's pages, that's all you're going to see is crap about me. I mean, they've even opened pages just for me.
It's going to make them sick eventually, because any kind of hate that festers inside a person like that, it actually ends up becoming cancerous, and it makes you sick. It creates this black thing in your body that just continues to spread. Yeah, I know that's morbid, but it's true. It's true.
It absolutely does.
There have been people that have hurt me in the past. There's things that are, almost unforgivable, and I do forgive, but I don't forget, and I proceed with caution with these people. But I don't harbor a grudge or a vendetta and just let it sit there and stew, because that's just wasted energy. There's nothing positive. That's not good for you. It's not good for the person they're projecting it to. It's just bad all around.
Yeah, and again, when I was reading these posts, because again, I have all these people blocked, but, of course, I've got thousands of mutual friends with people, so they would see these things being posted on these sites, and they would screenshot them and send them to me. And even that was becoming so draining, just to read them. I mean, it was like never ending. Like, I mean, I would start reading them, and before I would know it, I would be in tears. Before I would know it, my children would be in tears, and I'm just like, I mean, because there is no boundaries with these people. Like, they have attacked people's children. They have posted people's addresses and locations on, websites. They have posted pictures of these people's children, underage children.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
Yes, and they call foul. And, it's like, it's crazy. I see, again, on my timeline, I will see, all these freaking videos of, children in other countries being beheaded by ISIS and stuff like that, but that stuff's going to be allowed to be on there, and it just, again, the way that Facebook has turned out, I think, is horrible. I think it started out as a great idea, but when you get too many people in, and there's not enough regulation or anybody standing behind, what they say their terms of uses are, is just crazy. I just don't understand it, and it is very, very draining to anybody that is being attacked. But it also takes a lot of energy, like you said, to put all that out. And funny thing is that two of these people who are doing this both claim to be sick. One claims to have a brain tumor that he, had operated on in 2002, and that he only had 3 years to live. Well, I'll be honest, I don't even know if that's per se true. I've known this person for close to 8 years and never once got anything like that from him. In fact, I know personally why he's on disability, things like that. So, I mean, I've had many conversations with him, and that's never in, almost 8 years ever came up. And that just recently surfaced when people started kicking back. And then he's like, I'm disabled and, I'm dying and, this is horrible that people are doing this. Yeah, I could go and try to rile everybody up on my page. I could go out there and say, hey, look, these people are doing this to me. You guys all know how sick I am. Look at what it's doing to my health. And absolutely, I know without a shadow of a doubt, people would come to my side and they would start attacking. But that is what I will not do. Absolutely, I will not do that. I will not speak about them. I will not give them any more energy, because that's what they want. These people only want the attention. Doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's bad. They really don't care. And like I said, and then my sister says that she's got, coincidentally, some illness that makes her body think that she's got a brain tumor, but she doesn't. So, it's like if you're really that ill, you would think that nobody that sick would be out doing this kind of negative stuff, because it would affect them greatly as well.
They'd have no energy. I mean, if you have something wrong with you have a brain tumor, you can't really move a whole lot, not very quickly. You get dizzy spells. I've seen people who've had those, and it's not fun at all.
Right.
So.
And if you hear these people, on the radio shows and stuff that they do, sounding just, doesn't. You can actually hear the hate in, with what they're projecting. And again, it's sad, because even as bad as these people have been to me, and it hurts me a little bit more because this is very personal. Because although it's a sister who I did not grow up with. We both were separated young. I don't have the same hatred in me that they do. So for me, it's very hard to wrap my mind around. And, when I block them on Facebook, they, try to call me. If they don't call me, if I block it through there, then they email me, and I'll get 500 emails, I mean, it's like on and on and on until it just is relentless and it just won't stop. So you just kind of have to, step back. But again, it made me really realize that, this really, the lesson that was being shown to me and what I was going through was not about me. It was being brought to me to experience what cyberbullying is like, so that I could stand up and help others.
That's such a good positive attitude to have, though. I mean, that's a good attitude, because like you said, this is happening for a reason. And what I say, there are no accidents in life. There are only consequences. Absolutely. Some are good, some are bad. Some are life lessons we have to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
just the way the cards crumble. But what breaks my heart the most is, and I know you're a tough girl. I know you can handle this. There's not a shadow of doubt in my mind or anybody in the chat tonight or anybody listening that you can't handle this. And I waited a while to have you on because I knew you were on all these shows talking about it. And I really do want to talk a little bit about the paranormal in a minute. But I just read so much about kids killing themselves because they've been bullied. And it really bothers me because I had that happen to my own child in first grade. And I went about it a little bit different way. I signed her up for karate. And if anyone out there has a child who is being bullied, martial arts isn't for all children, but I will tell you this, it will teach them respect, it will teach them discipline, and it will give them confidence. Those kids don't play with my daughter now.
Right, but it also, if it was to ever, excel and get worse, she could also protect herself.
Well, yes,
and I think that's important because with children it's a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah, and with children it's a little different because the children are very they're young, they're very emotional, very reactive, and so just a simple saying something can end up where they're wanting to pull each other's hair out. And I've seen it because I experienced it with my daughter as well. And actually, we put her in karate as well when she was younger. I always, one of the things that they always taught, them was that, was discipline, was control, but that the stuff that they were teaching was only to be used if it was self-defense, if that they were, in a situation where they were being attacked. And, now we're seeing this group wolf pack mentality. So it's no longer like when you and I were in school, because there's always been issues with kids in school and, bullying's always gone on. I experienced it, but it was not like it is now. And I think that's what a lot of parents don't understand. It's changed. And now it's not just in school. It's in the, social media and
it's
the cyber world.
And cyber world now.
Yes. And, children, and not just children, but adults too. We don't know how. We have never been taught how to process all of that. It's bad enough when you say, look, you live in a little small town or you go to a school and, somebody starts a rumor about you and it goes through your school. You're like, oh, gosh, everybody's going to believe this. But when somebody puts something out on the internet, it goes worldwide. And, I've actually had, based on the things that people have said about me, I've had death threats to not only myself, but my family, my children. And I'll tell you, it's very, very scary. And I am strong. Absolutely 100% I'm strong. I have gone through some of the, largest trials and tribulations that I don't think most people would make it through. But what we have to remember is everybody has a breaking point. And just for how I'm strong today, if you would have seen me 3 days ago, I wasn't so strong. But the importance is that when you are going through these kind of feelings is to speak up. Let people know. People are so worried that people are going to see that depression or that they're reaching out for help or they're suicidal, that means they're weak. You're weak if you can't say anything. You can't get that help because then you feel completely isolated and alone. So, I do whatever I can, and I will continue this. As it said, the whole bullying thing, again, is nothing really, it has a lot to do with what I was going through, the background of it, but the cause is what is so important. And I want people to understand that it's not just children that are committing suicide. These are people who are people's, parents, brothers, sisters, girlfriends, wives, husbands. It's across the board. There is no age limit. There is, no boundaries on this. It can affect and, have consequences for anyone that goes through it. So we have to remember to have people come out, if you're needing help, if you're feeling alone, you can come to my group, go to another group, let somebody know because there are some amazing people out there on social media that
absolutely
just think that you need some help. They will gather around you and get you through. That's how we battle this.
That's how you do it. And I just posted a website on the chat room, and that is www.stopbullying.gov. That I printed out some stuff, and it has some really good advice for parents, and not just for parents, for people too. Adults get bullied too. And I want to talk to you tonight about your last paranormal investigation. And I don't want to shift gears here, but I want to go on to a more positive subject. Because I don't want to give these people any more validation. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I do.
And you always know I got your back, girl.
Yeah.
I always have your back. But I wanted to talk, and like I said, anybody out there who is suffering from depression or just needs to talk to somebody, I'm available. Christina's available. I know you mentor many people. You counsel people. We have in our chat room right now, and I'm going to embarrass her, but our New York girl is a psychologist with a master's degree, and that woman has counseled many, many people, including myself. I have my own therapist on speed dial.
That's awesome. You know, and
yes.
What's interesting is that we are usually the people who are giving all the advice. And when we get into a situation where we kind of feel like we don't know where to turn, I even found myself, it was very hard for me to reach out because I felt like, how can people depend on me to help them, you know, and to get them through things, and then they see that I'm a mess right now, you know. And again, that was just my fears of what I thought people would think. But in fact, it was completely the opposite. And, you know, one of my main statements I've been saying now for a while is even sometimes the teacher has to become the student. There's nothing wrong with that. Because it's how we grow. It's how we learn. It's how we learn. So, so you're talking about the investigation and the one that we just did recently?
Because I'm hooked in with the PPRS, so I'm able to see things. You know, you post stuff, and I was reading something where this last investigation, I don't know if you can discuss this or not, but people were getting scratched.
Yeah, it was actually a very interesting case. I was contacted by a local person, and I'm telling you, our cases have just been through the roof. We got so many cases, you know, going on that we can't even keep up. But this was a case that involved a family. They had 2 children, 2 young boys, and they had a lot of activity for many, many years stemming from another house. And so I went with my co-founder, and we went to go and do a walkthrough and do the client discussion with them. And we walked around the house, and right away, like, I get this lady is very, very, very psychic herself. And so, you know, we go and we do the readings, we tell them we have, and I mean, of course, as usual, both their jaws drop. Because, again, people think that when people give readings, you know, and in fact, I've even had people accuse me, my family, or my sister accuse me of saying that, you know, when somebody wants a reading or wants something from me, that I find somebody to go and do some research on Facebook or on the, you know, internet, and then I go and give them a reading, and that's where I get the information from. But anybody who's ever had a reading from me knows it's absolutely not like that. People will, you know, message me and say, "Can I get a reading?" And it's right there, and I do it right there. And so I went in and did this. I'd never met these people. Neither of us have. We don't know anything about them, and other than just their name and their address the day before we went there, that's all we had. And so we were able to really get everything, and she definitely had something very dark attached to her. She comes from a long generational ties of gypsies, and there was Romanian gypsies, and, you know, her grandmother was a seer and a healer, and, you know, used her tarot cards and all those kind of things. And it was very interesting is that, you know, we were going through, and I picked up actually on her grandmother, and there was one place in her room that was very, very, I mean, it was almost like electrifying. And I kept standing there, and I kept seeing this lady. And then my co-founder, you know, she goes and says, you know, I see this lady, and she describes the same person I'm seeing. And she can't visually see them. She's in third eye, you know, so I visually can see them, you know, in front of me. So I'm like, okay, we're on the same person. And, it's this older lady, and, we see her, like, kind of stroking, the client's head, like, when she's laying in bed. And so I gave her some messages. It was definitely very interesting. But the one thing that was crazy was that the children's room, as well as the master bedroom and bath, the energy was so heavy there and so dark. And the children were having nightmares, and they were all of them except for the husband, were all reporting that they had seen shadow figures. Oh, wow. And that they felt very scared. They were having a lot of nightmares, really horrific things. And while we got there, and as we started to do the cleansing, not one, but two of our investigators got scratched, and scratched pretty good. And there were people around them, so it wasn't like, somebody could say, they scratched themselves or anything like that. I mean, literally, we were all in doing the investigation, and somebody started feeling something on their back. We looked up, pulled up the shirt, and sure as heck, right in front of our eyes, they were, were showing up, one at a time. There were three lines. And, again, very, very interesting. We did the whole house, and after we did the whole house, I went back in and something still wasn't right. I knew it wasn't gone. So I said, okay, we're not leaving. We got to go in and we got to do more. And there's different types of cleansing you can do depending on what the kind of activity is. There's everything from a very mild one to a very, intricate one. So we ended up going and really kind of doing the whole shebang on the whole house, and we, blessed and cleared the property as well. I kept seeing a person. I looked over the fence, and there was an abandoned house with a pool, and I kept seeing the image of somebody dying in that area in a pool. I could see this person face down. And I asked them, and the client said, no, we don't know of anybody. And I said, okay. So when we came back the other night to go do the actual investigation, she pulls me over to the side and says, you're not going to believe this. And I go, what? She's like, remember when you were telling us about the drowning? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I actually talked to my neighbor behind us, and yes, there was a drowning in the pool. So I was like, okay, well, there you go. So there's again, none of this stuff the information I get never makes any sense to me. Nothing. It's random. It just comes, and it's either makes sense to people or it doesn't. And sometimes it right away doesn't make any sense to them. So we were able to clear everything. I am happy, so happy to report. I have been in contact with a client throughout the week, and all of the activity is gone. The children are having no more nightmares. In fact, after we did the cleansing, and I actually got them some crystals and stuff, little crystal satchel with crystals and stuff in it, for nightmares and different things like that, some arrowheads, and we put them in the little satchels for them to put in their pillowcase for when they sleep, for protection. And the children, it was so amazing when they walked in, because we don't do any kind of investigations when kids are there. We don't allow that. So the dad took the kids out for the evening for a couple hours, and we did that. When the kids walk in, and we gave them their little satchels in their room, they came in and they says, oh my gosh, what did you do in here? He says, it doesn't feel bad in here anymore. It feels
kids
so
felt
nice
the energy. I swear, kids. Something about kids. My own kid. Something about children. They have this ability that some adults don't. They can feel it.
Right. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we know that kids are the most connected, psychically connected. And they don't question everything. They trust what they feel. I can remember, even being told that, ghosts didn't exist, none of this stuff existed. I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew this was happening. It was just hard trying to wrap my head around every adult around me trying to tell me it wasn't, But yeah, children are very, very intuitive, and you always want to listen to kids, and the old thing of, everybody has every child has an imaginary friend. That isn't, not always the case. So if your child is talking about that they've got a friend, you need to talk to them. Don't tell them that doesn't exist, Talk to your children. Get them to explain this stuff. There are plenty of people out there including myself, that are more than willing to help. I'm actually going to be mentoring these children and their mom and dad because I always do it as a group. I work with the children individually and in groups, but I also work with the parents because, of course, I can't be with the kids 24 hours a day. The parents are. And so, you know, they're not my children. I need to train the kids how to accept their abilities, but I also have to train the parents on how to help them with these abilities. Thankfully, their mom, you know, does have psychic abilities, and she's very, very in tune with them. So I think that, you know, it'll be really good. But yeah, you know, it's nice when you have a nice positive outcome. You know, and again, even though we had a lot of stuff, I mean, people felt down. Oh my gosh, people got scratched and stuff. It does happen. It does happen. I mean, this is the field we're in. Am I going to get freaked out about it? Absolutely not. It didn't kill me. I didn't, take anybody's life. I mean, and so we were able to help this family. And I'm telling you, when they give their gratitude, when you leave, or when I get the emails the following days from clients, you know, you can just, like, those are the emails I love to read because they are so positive, and you can feel the gratitude, you know, as if you did something so amazing that they thought would never, ever happen. And so, you know, definitely kind of was a pick-me-up, you know, because I was starting to think, you know, geez, all these years that I've been doing this, you know, is it really worth it? I mean, is this all that this is about? Is so after all the good stuff I've done, all it's going to be doing is, you know, trashing and negativity? No, I'm not going to let that happen. You know, again, you gotta switch it around and put a positive spin. And when you see clients that, you know, are, you know, so happy that this is gone, it makes
Absolutely.
you realize.
No, it's true. I think I told you without me saying too much on air because my relative will shoot me. I think I confided in you and Renee about, especially Renee, who is one of your lead investigators and a friend of mine as well. I have a family member having issues, bad things that have been going on for a couple of years, and they didn't say anything. And I happened to spend the night there one night, and I heard crying in the closet at 2 a.m. Just sound some little voice crying. And I have the person that lives there has another person living there that is very anti-metaphysics, they does not want anyone coming in and blessing the house or cleansing it. I've taken it upon myself to do a few things outside of the house. One of them was putting crystal grids in the backyard. Because the 5-block radius is all Native American burial ground. So I had to do research on the property. Unfortunately, this is a very close family member, and it's bugging one person in the house because they have abilities. The other person is completely no abilities. And that person is someone that's very, very, very close to me. That's all I'm going to say. It would explain why I have abilities, maybe. Without saying too much, but I live too far away from you guys.
Hard.
It is. I would love for you guys to maybe sometime come down and do an investigation because you and Renee don't, you know, it's unbiased. I grew up in that part of the house. I grew up in this house, so I know that there were things happening because I saw it with my own eyes. But it's very hard to, you know, say, okay, I'm going to bring this team in, you know, night vision goggles, all the equipment. The other person in the house would just flip out. But
yeah. Well, you know, it was very interesting in this case that we just had. The family was hearing impaired, the whole family, and so all of their, abilities and all their senses are heightened, because they accommodate for that. And the father had no psychic abilities, so he felt and saw nothing. And this woman would be so drained, and the kids be so drained if they spent much time in the house that they would literally become sick. And she couldn't get up, she couldn't do anything. And the husband, it got to the point where, they'd been married for many, many years, and they even started having issues between themselves because they were they were basically pointing the finger at each other. Well, this is your fault, the husband would say, well, it's your fault, you're sensitive, you're the one bringing these things here. And she'd say, no, they're not attached to me, they're probably attached to you, they're negative, and like they were saying, this is so not us, I don't understand. And for me, being an experienced investigator, I'm like, oh, it's not uncommon. Like this is kind of like how these things work. They try to create chaos and negativity in the homes. And it really kind of feeds off it from there. They love when, family members fight, or spouses fight up, with each other. So being somebody who is sensitive and being in a house, and it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, again, spirits are everywhere, and they roam around. So, you're going to be around them, at some point. But people who are very sensitive to them, can be a very, I want to say, an uneasy feeling, because if you cannot visually see what's there, all you get is this kind of creepy, somebody's watching you feeling. Or you can feel some energy, but it doesn't feel familiar. And so, again, our human brains, we fear anything we don't understand. So we don't see something, we don't know what's there, our brain automatically goes to like the fear factor of, okay, it must be something bad. I mean, I've done thousands of cases over throughout my lifetime, and I will tell you, it's very rare that you get anything that is really, really, really bad. I mean, there are those extreme cases, but they're kind of in between. And a lot of people, especially because of paranormal shows on TV, they all think that they've got demons. It's like, I don't think I've had one case where they don't think they've got a freaking demon. And I'm like, okay, no, it's not a demon, but this is who it is, And, people think that, if something flies off the wall or the shelf, or, even if somebody's scratched, that it's got to be demonic. And that is not the case. What people need to understand is that if a person has passed away and they have not crossed over and say they were a serial killer or they were an abusive, person, that's how they're going to be.
Right.
And
their energy's there.
Crossover. There you go. And so, there are some. I mean, I have had a case with somebody very, very close to me who has, an attachment, and it is of a man who was, I believe, a serial rapist, and it has a disability, and he died, and he's attracted to my friend, and has been there with her for years. I mean, and it was interesting. I just happened to be at her house one day, and I normally don't do readings for friends. Kind of one of my cardinal rules that I usually break a lot, unfortunately, nowadays, because, a lot of times people that are close to you don't like to hear certain information that you get.
That's true.
I'm a straight shooter, so whatever it is that I get, that's what I give them, and, it's like you don't want to adjust the reading. So, but I went to her house, and
we're running out of time, Christina.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm so sorry. I need to do a 2-hour show, maybe. I would love to come again in the next month or two, and we could talk all about just investigations. I feel bad not wasting time, but this had to be addressed in the beginning of the show. And
yes,
Christina,
I think it was really perfect. I'd be happy to come any time that you want me.
I know you will, and hopefully I will see you in September for camping. Thank you for being my guest tonight, everybody. I will be back next week with an Earth Changes scientist, so stay tuned for that. Good night to my guests. Good night out there in DTM world. We'll be back next week. Peace and love. Night, night.